Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm, and today we're going to be carrying on our series. And if you guys remember, what we did is that we are creating this dynamic selection. And what we did here on the last episode is that we started to do the color, blue hair, male, female, and all that stuff. Right, so what we're going to be doing today is that we are going to basically switch our character color, hair, and the male to female when we click it here. So, without taking too much time, let's do first the color. The color is the easy one to do and apply, right? So, I'm going to go back. I'm going to close now all those things. I don't need it right here, right? On my WP character creation, I'm going to open up here the color creation node, right? And here, if you guys notice, we have a big mistake here right now because I don't have a reference to my player controller. So what it means that I can't do anything with my player. So now what we can do here is that we need to find where we're creating this widget. And the place where we do that is on the character creator. And if you guys remember, we created our BPC character creation UI, which is fine here. And now we have our player reference, but we're not passing the player reference on our widget, right? There's two options how we can do this. We can handle that on the player controller. We can handle that on the widget. The way I like to do is that I am going to pass a reference to the component so I can get the player controller and then use methods on the player controller. That way it's more, remember, it's always best to run this kind of changes on the player controller than try to do this on the widget, because the widget only runs on the client and the player palm, it runs on the client and on the server, but is ruled more by the client. So let's do this on the player controller that executes most of his codes on both client and server. All right. Okay. So now on the player control, on the component, this widget here that we created, the main one, we need to add a new variable. And this variable is going to be called the character creator component. And this is gonna, I just mistake the name. I'm gonna call this BPC character creation UI. And it's gonna be an object. Make sure it's public and you expose and spawn. Now, here's the thing, very important. Remember that I was gonna say, but what's the expose and spawn? And basically, expose on spawn allow us to literally expose that variable, if I refresh this here, on spawn. As you can see that we marked that, because that's expose on spawn and is public, now I can see it right here, all right? So now what we can do here is that we need to pass the character creation component, which in this case will be self, not select, sorry, self. Nice. Now we have everything proper set up to do a bunch of things. Now we need on here, we already have the reference, we got everything. Great. Now let's start to do our logic to change our player skin color, right? Or the color of the clothes or whatever. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to go back to my character creation. And I am gonna open up my character right here. I'm gonna go back to my event, and on the event, on the player palm, let me try to explain this in a better way. Let's try to use paint, right? What we need to do here, I know this is awful, but I'm just gonna explain you guys. So imagine that this red circle here, it's our player palm, it's the player. Now, this guy needs to connect with a controller, right? And I'm going to put the color of the controller to, let's say, orange. Now, the controller connects to the player UI, actually component, right? And then the component connects with the player UI. I know it's a very complex, topic, but what I mean with all this stuff is that now we need to do the logic to change the player skin on the player. that will be accessible by the player controller that will be connected to the player component, which will be handled by the UI. So once again, it's a very complex logic, but we can make it simple. It's complex when you put in a diagram, but as we work with it, it's going to be, let's say, easier to do that. Right, so first thing I want to do here is that I want to create a new event graph, and this event graph is going to be called, just called character creator. All right. Now I'm going to create here a custom event, API call, a custom event, sorry, call API change player color, right? And this, I want to make sure it runs on the client because, and make sure it replicates, but it doesn't matter. Right. Now, what I want to do here is that I need to change, let's say, my player chest colors and all that stuff, right? So what we can do here is that how can we change, for example, the element on the position number 2, right? So in Unreal Engine, if I get my chest here, for example, I can get material instance or dynamic, create a dynamic material instance, right? And we are creating here our material there. And basically, what we want to do here is that get material here, great. And what we would like to do here, I'm just going to plug this one right there. And as you can see, it has the index of the element I want to change. Well, in our case, now our chest is 0, 1, 2. All right. So we need to make sure that we plug this on 2 and that one on 2. Now, what we can do here is that we can set maybe material, and then it's gonna basically ask me what index I would like to change, and I would like to change the material number 2, right? Now it's probably gonna say, okay, what is the target, right? Material, create a dynamic material source. Let me just double check if that can work. So source material, set material. We may be able to do, but we need to create a dynamic material and then the source and source material return. Let me just do a quick research here to remember myself which one's the right one. All right, guys. Yeah. So just resuming the video here. And what I was trying to do is just to, we don't really need to create a dynamic material. It's way simpler than that. So what we got to do here is that we just need to get, on our case, let's say our chest, we need to set the material. And we just need to put here, what is the element we would like to change? In this case is ours too. And here's going to basically ask, oh, what's the material you would like to set? All right. Now, what we're going to do here, just for testing purposes, on the event graph, we have begin play somewhere. Anyway, begin play. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delay, let's say, not destroy the actor. I'm going to delay for 2 seconds. And I'm going to call that API change player color. And right now I can select my chest and I can, let's say, use the blue one. And I'm going to put it right here, compile and save, and let's see if it's going to work. So after 2 seconds, the material is blue. Look at that. So we already start to do a game mechanic here. So it starts to get in a nice way. So as you guys can see, where I can go with this, right? So let's just carry on with this logic. So we know this works. We know the material works, which is great. You know, it's all what I want. Just one thing as well. The reason why I was doing the dynamic instance is because sometimes you want to change values of the material. So that's why I use the dynamic material instance, because from sometimes you can pass a variable which color that you want. On this case, we don't have a variable, we just pass in the whole material, so we set the material. But anyway, we're gonna go back here. Now we need to do the same here for our, let's say, hands, right? And it's gonna put it right there. And this one's gonna go here. And if I go back to my player, what more else do I have? I have hands. I think that's fine. I'm not gonna spend too much time setting up everything else. I'll leave this more to you guys. Whatever you want to change on this character, I'm just gonna create here the base for this character. If you want to create something to change the player skin, for example, you would have to change, for example, the whereas his let's say his hair, right, his eyes, you would have to change this element 1, or the head, for example, you would have to change the element 1. But we're not changing the character skin, we're just changing his clothes. But if you want to do, you just need to create a new material element to do that. Right, but right now that's fine. So do we still using the find reference by name? Yeah, we still have that. If I press play, 1, 2, look at that. So we got that. Now the hands, there's a problem. What is the hand not changing? Because we are using the material number 3. All right, material number 3. Now let's check. Aha, nice. I can see that I have a little bit of red here. Let's do the legs as well. So let's get the legs. Same logic, guys. Same thing. I really like this model. It's very easy to work. I honestly was thinking, because sometimes you download models on Unreal Engine and they are absolute nightmare to work on to make whatever you want. In this case, I'm really impressed with this. It's so easy. I would buy that guy assets. It's really good. But anyway, it's gonna put it here. Press play and let's see what's gonna happen. Now we have here blue. Everything's blue. Nice. I'm very happy with this. So now, you know, go nuts. Do whatever you want. If you want to change the guy trousers, whatever you want, guys. You go crazy. You do whatever you want. In my case, I want to keep it simple. I just want to change his shirt to blue, red, and whatever. And then in this way, you have a little bit of a character creation dynamic on the game. Right, so the thing that we're going to do here is that we have this setup, right? Now I'm going to create here another event, which I'm going to change. If you guys remember the player hair, all right? That one is easy. I'm going to create here a custom event. And I'm going to call this API set, change player hair. All right. Nice. Now we have all this stuff selected, which is good. I'm going to get now our hair, and I'm going to just search for set mesh or set skeletal mesh asset, right? And what you're going to do here is that you're going to pass the asset on that, okay? And now we can do the same. We're just going to go back here. We're going to call the API set change player hair. And now we need to remember where we created the hair. Where was it? Easy way to find is just click on the mesh here. And there we go. We have this weird hair that we created, but it's fine. Compile and save that. Press play. There we go. We have created a weird character, but anyway, the hair is changing. Great. Now we have to create a gender switch, and that's gonna be interesting because we kind of need to, now we get to a point where now we need to have our default character parts for male and our default character parts for female. And then when you change the gender, it will basically switch those parts for us from male to female and so on and so forward, right? So to do that, I am going to make this, because I'm trying to make this as proper as I can, so it's going to take a little bit more time, but I'm going to create it as a data table, all right? The reason why I'm creating as a data table is because both female and male parts, they share the same hand, foot, chest, legs, ears, and all that stuff, right? So what I can do is that I can create all those parts and then just switch them back to whatever I want, all right? So there's a couple of ways you can do this, and I'm gonna do in the most simple and easy way, which is to create a set of parts that I'm gonna be using for my male and female character, right? So I'm gonna drag and drop this one right here, all right? And I am gonna right click on, I'm gonna go to the variables, I'm gonna right click here, I'm gonna create a new blueprint, and I'm gonna create a new structure, and I'm gonna call this SD gender default parts, all right? Now that I have created here my structure, let's try to understand how does this character works. So we need to create a mesh, which is the head, eyes, ears, legs, chest, all that stuff, and beard. That's the thing. The female version of this character does not have a beard, so we can probably leave that empty, but anyway. Right, so we are going to go back to the structure. We're going to create here head, and we're going to make sure it's a skeletal mesh. And we're going to put here object reference. One thing that I always, to make sure that we always using the right type, what I like to do here, sorry, it's just, is the class reference. Is that I like to go to, let's say, my eyes here. And I'm sure that's a skeletal mesh. I like to go here and maybe see if this part will fit here. So that means that's not the right thing. So it's called skeletal mesh. So let's see, object reference. That's not what we're looking for. Skeleton. No, skeletal mesh. Maybe we are using the component. Let me double check. No. Let me just double check. Is that the object? No. Let me double check. So skeletal mesh. It should be that. There we go, guys. I found the right type. I'm really sorry for this, but we basically need to use, we just type skeletal mesh. We need to select the object reference, all right? Cool. Now that we have this, we don't need to worry about that. We're just gonna, we set this stuff after. Don't worry about this right now. Now we need to create now the ears, or sorry, the eyes, right? And we're gonna put eyes. We're gonna copy for the ears. We're gonna create it here for the legs. We're gonna create here for the chest. I'm gonna create it here for the foot. And we're gonna create it here for our player hands. And we're gonna create the beard and so on and so forth. So it's gonna put it here. And then we have the hair. Great. Nice, we're gonna save all this stuff. Cool. Now, what we're gonna do here is that we're just gonna set up our default parts. So for the head, we're gonna put this head. For the eyes, we need to put those eyes, those ears. Where's the legs? Here. Where is the chest? There. Foot. We're gonna put the hand right here. I'm gonna put the beard. and we're gonna put the hair. Great. Now we have our default character set up. Let's go back here. And now we need to create a version, a female version of this, right? So I'm just gonna right click. I'm gonna go back here to miscellaneous. I'm gonna go to the data table, and I am gonna search for the gender parts, right? And here I'm gonna call this DT gender default parts. Now I'm gonna save all this stuff here, and now I'm gonna open up and I'm gonna add data, and I'm gonna do the first one for male. All right, now because we set up everything as default, we don't need to fill up this again. That's the reason why I put everything as default. Now I can just duplicate this and put this as a female, right? We're gonna go back down. We're gonna go back to this part, the female part mesh, right? Now we need to put the female hair or head. In our case, is the head without the hair, because the hair is also changeable. We need to put the face. We need to put the ears. Now where's the leg? Leg here. Where's the chest? Where is the foot? The hands? We don't have a beard for the woman character. And we need to put the hair. Great. Now we should have everything set up properly. Now we have male, female. That's really good. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is that for now, I'm just going to pause this video right now, just because it starts to get, otherwise it gets too long. And you probably guys already figure out what we're trying to do, right? So we're going to switch from the male to female version, and then we're going to be able to change the parts on the fly. So once again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.